Derp derp, blorp blorp blorp. Hello, hello, hello. Jamie Doherty, right on time. Hooray. What's up, homie? Just getting started. I am here on Facebook. I am also on YouTube. You can pop on over to my YouTube channel, Nico the Dreamer. I'm trying to put my stuff on over there as well. I got some videos from the last weeks. Very nice. Yeah. Good to see you. Glad for you to be here. Glad for you to participate. Hang out as long as you like, and we'll have a nice time. This week I am a little bit tired, so I don't have a whole lot of stuff prepared in the moment. But I just want to hang out and kick it, make myself available. I had a really nice weekend. Made some new friends. One of my new friends is here. We had a very nice conversation the other night about how there should be an amazing psychedelic club in Copenhagen where people can come together in a nice environment and share love, stories, hanging out, these sort of things. And this might be a cool thing to do in every city or every community, have a place where people can come together and have spiritual experiences of love and healing, these sort of things. Even maybe keep it simple. For instance, here in Copenhagen, they've been having a fair amount of cacao ceremonies. Cacao is amazing, healthy, healing, really good heart opener, heart activator. I've done some really nice cacao ceremonies in the last year or two. So that's a really cool thing. And then for people that are a little bit more ambitious or inspiring, you can mushroom ceremonies or San Pedro, ayahuasca, these sort of things. Fun thing I like to talk about, but whatever. Also, just to hang out together, group sharing, caring, singing, songing, massage, yoga, these sort of things, group healing, sessions of all types, always wonderful and good. So everybody is welcome here. Everybody's welcome here on Facebook. Welcome on my YouTube channel. Pop on over to the YouTube channel, make a like, make a subscribe. I'm gonna try to continue making videos and stuff to put up on there. I'm not so good with iMovie or video editing stuff, so most of the time it's just me saying stuff, which I think is entertaining. I like to say things. And sharing information and knowledge. And I have a lot of knowledge and information to share. I'm pleased to share all of it that I have. These sort of things. I've lost a little bit of momentum in the last weeks. I shared a lot and feel pretty good with the amount that I put out there. And I don't know. I would appreciate feedback and stuff like this. If people want anything in particular from me as far as information or content, I'm pleased to share in these sort of things. And the more participation, the more I'll be motivated to share and go further. We got Riedel in the house. We got Martin Luther King in the house. We got Steve in the house. Welcome, everybody. You are all welcome here. I'm pretty tired this week. I had a long weekend. I had a lot of fun. But I want to be here on Sunday so that you guys know that this is a place that I will be available consistently. So you can see my happy, smiling face as I continue on my adventure, and we can share some moments, some memories, and stuff like this, and continue along the path. In particular, I wanted to make the topic of today's discussion what's going on in France with the Yellow Vest movement, and just the idea that we can create changes around the globe, peaceful protest and things like this. In particular, you know, what's the best way that we can make changes, and you know, just coming online and offering myself to start a dialogue, start discussion, these sort of things. This is what I'm doing in the moment. It feels like a good way to participate, and what else we can do to all do that. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I part of me wants to just go into the city center and sit in the square on a magic carpet and just beam out positivity and stuff until everybody just, you know, we all just end up hanging out together and singing songs and it's all good. Somehow, in order to really create the changes that we wish to see, we have to change these paradigms that keep people too busy to be able to make a change and stuff like that. And right now, you know, just to keep the wheels moving, people got to, you know, a lot of people are in a situation where they feel like they have to do, you know, the Monday to Friday thing, the 9 to 5 thing. these sort of things. I am inspired by the fact that, in the 21st century, there's a lot of opportunity for people to take on alternative livelihoods and stuff like that. A lot of people making a living on the internet or with travel blogs or various different things, and I encourage that. I think it's cool. People become their own boss in that way. They make their own rules and create their own schedules. Very nice, and a lot of young people are finding a path to liberation with that, which is very cool. Ultimately, I would address, we got to figure out a way to become free from the banking system of, debts and loans and mortgages and stuff like that. And it has to do with the way the money's created, stuff like that. And, I have hope that there is a way that it can be organized that will allow people to be free and stuff like that, but it's going to take some big changes. I was watching a Facebook video just before I came on about a 12-year-old girl in Sweden who went on strike from school. And you know how they take small children going to school very seriously in Sweden. If your child doesn't go to a public school and receive a public education, then they will be either taken away from their family and or have their parents put in prison, something like this. They're very serious about their welfare state in the northern countries here. And I thought it was very cool for a 12-year-old to take it into her own hands to go on strike from school to put pressure on the government to create meaningful action for climate change and these sort of things. Very cool, very nice. And again, I encourage people to take as much of this power into our own hands. We have, individually a lot of power to make changes in the way things work through our consumption choices and stuff like that. I've learned a lot about recycling and repurposing things. I've come to believe that in a capitalist society, everything you need you can get secondhand, reused, and generally for free. All the clothes I'm wearing, all of the food I've been eating, it's been free for a long time because people throw away good stuff all the time. And I don't have shit else to do because I'm a traveler, so I just wander around and pick it up. Most people, just for the convenience of not having to address their own consumption, just take shit out to the curb and set it by the dumpster. And it's a shame that it gets wasted. I made a post this week about how much meat products get wasted in the dumpsters of supermarkets. I don't have so much of a problem with bananas and berries and stuff getting moldy and, sure, whatever, throw it away if it's not useful. But man, it's such a tragedy that there are animals that are raised and killed and slaughtered in the whole thing, and they never are useful. They never are consumed. They never become nutrition. They just sit on a store shelf for a couple days, and then they're thrown in the bin, and then they rot, and their lives are completely unappreciated and meaningless. And so that's something that I would address in this moment. I think that's pretty sad, and I think it will be nice to change that. Talking about climate issues, climate change, these sort of things. I really actually, I think that the climate change issue is such a political one that it serves many people's agenda, especially when it comes to things like taxing carbon credits and stuff like that, to put pressure on the consumers to pay more of the burden of that. And I think that's pretty a misguided way of looking at it. The way I think about climate change is probably the number one thing that we could do to improve climate change, at least as far as the atmosphere, the greenhouse gases and stuff is concerned, is to plant more trees and or stop destroying the rainforest, which is pretty much directly tied into the animal agriculture industry, the meat process, clearing out rainforest for cattle grazing. So to me, that's the number one issue. It doesn't have anything to do with cars. Most people, when they talk about climate change, they talk about cars and pollution. I would also offer that, the oil industry, there's no need to be using combustion engine gasoline cars anymore. Maybe from within or not, I will address this as soon as I finish my thought. That I was recommending to my dad a documentary called Who Killed the Electric Car? Very nice documentary. They had Honda released an electric car. It was called the EV1 in, I think, 1981 or 83, something like that. And so it's been around for like 40 years. Basically, what they did is they were under political pressure by the state of California to create a car that with reduced emissions. And so they had an electric car and they released it, and it was picked up by many consumers. The people who had it absolutely loved it. And then ultimately, what happened is that the automobile industry was able to successfully lobby against this bill to reduce emissions. And when they defeated the bill, they repossessed all the electric cars and destroyed them. And so even though the people loved these cars and didn't want to give them up, they didn't have a choice, and they had to give their cars up and have them destroyed. It's my understanding that electric cars actually have been available for close to like 100 years even, and that the gasoline combustion energy technology is more profitable, so therefore it's the one that has been developed. So yeah, that's my feeling on climate change. It is my understanding, and maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. It's my understanding that more carbon dioxide and emissions is put into the air from natural processes, from volcanoes, geothermal stuff, than is from automobiles, and also that industrial carbon dioxide pollution is a much bigger contributor than consumer automobiles as well. So I think it's kind of misplacing the blame to put it on consumers to drive their cars less when the vast majority of this type of pollution is coming from other sources. It's a shame what's in the oceans. It would be very nice. I've heard some nice stories about them developing bacteria that's able to break down plastics and stuff in the oceans. That would be very nice. Finding a way to consolidate this trash in the oceans and maybe make an island on it that people could live on. I don't know, some kind of idea. Really tragic, this sort of thing. So that's kind of my feelings on climate change. There are also natural cycles, ice age cycles and stuff. It's not entirely clear that what the influence of those is on the broader impact. However, just to be clear, I would say it's very clear that there is an absolute crisis of way too much pollution and waste in the world from overconsumption and stuff, and that it should be addressed and reduced and these sort of things. One thing that comes to mind is planned obsolescence. Like, this is a producer side issue that should be addressed. We shouldn't put up with this bullshit. You know, they have the technology to make things that last a long time. So why do we have why does the battery on my phone always like stop working 1 week after the warranty expires? You know, why is I've been given the phone that I'm using now as I travel, and it's a little bit of an older phone, but it works fine. It does what I need it to, except it's like 5 years old. None of the software and none of the applications will support this older phone. So even though it's functionally useful, even though it is technically useful, it is functionally useless because I can't put the things on it that I wish to. I can't use it the way I wish to. And so even if you as a consumer are trying to do the responsible thing and make a phone last for a long time or make a car last for a long time or whatever, there's pressures from these industries of making it so things doesn't last. Another good example, my friend has on his phone, he has kind of one of these newer iPhones, and it doesn't have a headphone jack to listen to music on. So in order to listen to music on these new iPhones, you need this adapter to adapt the standard 1/8-inch headphone jack into an iPhone thing. And of course, they're doing this just as a money grab because they know that everybody that gets a new iPhone is going to want to listen to music on it. And so every one of those represents an adapter that they can sell. And so, just pimping the consumers. So, I think as consumers, we have a lot of power to make changes by not supporting industries that are shitty and not supporting stores and businesses that are shitty or Walmarts and stuff like that. But I also think when it comes to certain things that are outside of our power, that are being controlled from the top down, for instance, like the energy companies, a lot of places have electricity. You only have one choice of electricity carrier. I think this was going on in California. They had these power wars about who would control the electric grid and stuff like that. And so that's not something that's very easy to make a responsible choice over. You only get one choice of electric carrier in certain places, one choice of internet provider, this Comcast monopoly stuff. And when they have that, then of course not only do they basically corner the market, but they also get to, it's a race to the bottom as far as they get to lower and lower and lower the standard of service, to the point where they just basically do what they tell you to, and you don't really have a choice. Similar thing with banking. Like if you don't use a corrupt, federally insured and regulated bank, that is stacking the odds in their favor systematically, then where are you going to put your money? What are you going to do with it? If you don't wish to use Federal Reserve notes that are predatory towards the consumer, how will you use the resources that you wish to get? If you're not going to use U.S. dollars, then how do you participate in the world? I don't know, but these things have to be addressed. And that's really challenging. And to the point that you asked me about, Reed, I'll come around to that now. To address the system from within, I don't think there is like really a good way to do it, because from the way that I see, the system has been fundamentally set up to be at odds with the greatest good for the most people. It's a pyramid scheme, basically. They make the money, they distribute it among the people, and then they ask for more back. They give it to you at interest, and they say, give us more back. So fundamentally, I think it's stacked against us. However, the power of the workers to use their leverage as far as striking, as far as collective bargaining, negotiating, as far as grassroots organization of these sort of things, we do the best that we can. I think, I don't know, like you want to work in something ethical, but none of the ethical jobs pay good money. Why don't teachers get paid the way they should? I don't know. Why do oil diggers get paid so much? I met a lot of these types of people when I was in Colorado, and I was doing sales calls out on the Eastern Plains, and we would go out on the Eastern Plains of Colorado, and I was selling water quality equipment at the time. And we'd go out there because we knew they had money, because they were out there selling, doing oil drilling and stuff, and they have money. And every time we would go on these leads, they'd go, "Oh, he's an oil worker. You should be able to make a sale." And when I did that, it was nice in these things, and I didn't hate my job. I thought it was good. I felt like I was doing a good thing, because I was providing water quality equipment for people so their family could have clean water. Because a lot of these out on the Eastern Plains of Colorado, a lot of hard water. Lots of people are drinking. Their drinking water is coming from wells that are dug down there, and there are some issues there. So I was providing them with a nice service. But I always felt a little bit conflicted about it, because I'm selling stuff to people that are only able to buy it because they're digging. They're oil workers. And then sometimes and then the flip side of the coin, sometimes I would go out, to Greeley or somewhere where they have not so good water quality, and I would do a test, and the family would be very concerned, and their water's not so good, high levels of chlorine. There may or may not be fluoride in the drinking water that may or may not be toxic. I believe yes. And they would be a teacher, and they would have 2 kids or 3 kids, and they would say, "God, we desperately wish for our family to have clean drinking water and to be able to protect our health and our home and these sort of things. But we can't afford it because we're teachers. Go sell your equipment to the oil drillers," sort of thing. So, and right on time, my former boss arrives. I'm talking about what I learned from sales and how that went. And very much I appreciate the time that I spent there. I was talking to my dad about that today, how the skills that I developed during that time have served me very nicely, and I'm very appreciative for that time. So I don't know, as far as change the system from within. I think, I think of it more from a spiritual level, is we have to do the best we can with the situation we can. We have to find a way to create new industries that are more ethical. I think most likely, most likely, when I return to Colorado, I'm interested in potentially getting involved in the hemp and or cannabis industry because I feel like this is helpful. It's not something I'm really into in the moment as far as personal usage and stuff. I'm taking a step back from that and kind of recalibrating. And I feel good about that. But I absolutely, as far as the use and diversity and applications of hemp in our country, in our culture, as far as solving problems, there's no end to it. I sincerely believe that just like Bob Marley said, cannabis is the healing of the nations. Uh, Fuel, clothing, plastics, anything that can be made out of cotton, timber, or plastic or oil can be made out of hemp. So very, very simply, that I consider I consider maybe getting involved in some sort of role in teaching or with the youth, something like this, helping to spread these ideas that way. I'm a little bit reluctant to get involved in anything that has to do with the formal education system because my stepmom was a substitute teacher for a long time, and it just sounds like it's getting more and more thick as far as having standardized testing and relations, and every kid's got an allergy list, and they got to have them medicated in school and all this stuff. You got to make sure they get their meds. It's just a mess. I don't think I would like to work in the public school system at all. I'm also interested in the thing I really would like to do that I would like to build towards. I would like to be some sort of life coach or guidance advisor for people that are struggling to find a good way, maybe in some capacity of leading yoga or meditation or healing experiences, leading ceremonies or something like that, to where people can understand themselves a bit better. I had a really interesting conversation this weekend with a woman who was in the Danish military, and she spent time in Afghanistan, had a very traumatic experience there, and came back, and I could just see in her eyes how much hurt and suffering was there. And we're at a party, no one wants to talk about this stuff at a party, and just I could see, and I sat and I listened to her tell her story for 20 or 30 minutes, and and I could see just from having someone listen to her for 30 minutes, like how helpful it was, and how she was starting to understand herself a little bit better, why she was feeling this way, and what needs to happen to come to a place of contentment and joy. And sometimes in this world we feel like we're the victim of circumstance, and especially for people that find themselves in the terrible situation of war or armed conflict, it feels like you're powerless, and you don't have the things just happen to you. And what a terrible thing. And it was crazy too, because I told her, she was in this Danish medical psychiatric system, being given pills and stuff, and being told she needed all this psychotherapy and stuff, and basically put in this box of mentally unwell sort of thing. And it's to me, it's like a vicious cycle. You put that label on someone, and they just go further and further down. And the crazy thing, I started talking to her. I looked her in the eyes and I said, listen, you've had a traumatic experience. You had to witness someone that you care about dying in front of you in a very grotesque manner. And, you've had a very challenging relationship with authority, with your father, and with, aggressive authoritarian men, trust issues, these sort of things. For you to feel the way you feel and to be coping with it in the way that you are is completely normal. If you have a traumatic war experience where people are being blown to bits around you, it's entirely normal to be stressed out about it, and to maybe have that affect your sleep or your ability to feel compassion or to feel connected to people in normal social situations where nobody really gives a fuck about those sort of things. And it was crazy because she looked at me and she was like, what? Like, nobody has ever told me that before. I'm normal? What? I mean, I'm not saying you're normal, because we're all weird and stuff, but that's an entirely normal response to such a difficult thing. So yes. Ding, 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 ding. All right. So you have touched on the thing that I think is the most important thing. We need to get land. We need to get our hands on the land and we need to use it, and we need to grow our food. So I think outside of the system, if you're in the system, as much as you can, be the best person you can. Treat people with respect, look them in the eyes, share smiles, and share stories of hope and inspiration and these sort of things. But the moment that you have the possibility to become autonomous, to live on your own piece of land and grow your own food, that's the way it's done. And then we're going to start creating small communities, and then we're going to create pipelines for people to get out of the cities, and we're going to start rescuing people from the cities. And I think there will be a thing. We'll create small communities. We'll step out. We'll step out. You know, we'll learn how to live in nature. We'll learn how to grow our own food. We'll learn how to do this all for ourselves. And at some point, maybe we'll go back. Maybe we'll go back into the cities and we'll do it right. I'm a huge supporter of urban agriculture, greenscaping, these sort of things. I think these are wonderful. I encourage people to get involved in these industries, or to, you know, at least start considering these ideas. I think we can build wonderful cities, very green, this thing about planting gardens on the roof as a way to combat urban pollution, smog, and stuff like this. Very nice. These sort of things. I think we can make cities amazing and wonderful. They're not going to be consumer capitalists, suburban hellscapes like what we see now with you know, the cultural center of activity is the mall. That's so silly to me, you know. Big domes, big green domes filled with some various activities and stuff. And there's a guy named Jacques Fresco. He died a couple years ago, but he kind of spearheaded this project called the Venus Project, which is a kind of a futuristic vision of how things could be done in a way that makes sense based on a resource-based economy rather than kind of a capitalist consumer economy. And I love his drawings and his ideas and stuff. He didn't really think about it from the practical standpoint of, we already have a system that's very big and sprawling and kind of fucked up, and it needs to be transitioned. He kind of just drew up his ideas like in a vacuum of what makes the most sense and what would be a good idea. But I loved his drawings, and I think he has a really good perspective on how things could be and should be. I haven't had my meeting at the embassy yet. It's coming. I have spent a good amount of this week doing research about what the appropriate way to fill out this paperwork is, as a private American sovereign citizen rather than a U.S. corporate citizen. The website that I've been using to guide this is sedm.org. A lot of really good legal stuff about what this is really about and how to protect your rights and stuff like this. This is based on the American Constitution and the American system, but this is the same model that's followed around the world. So Canada, it's my understanding that the United States of America, in all capital letters, that's incorporated as a private corporation, is based in Scotland or England. And it's the same way with the government of Canada, in all capital letters, that is incorporated as a private corporation, probably owned somewhere in England, probably owing spiritual allegiance to the Vatican, to Rome. This is my understanding. So it's going to follow the same rules and laws. And basically, you know, the bottom line, we all have the right to be free. Nobody can make you sign a contract that you don't want to. You know, if it's basically the same thing as someone coming up to you with a gun and saying, "Give me all your money." You say, "I don't want to give you all my money." You say, "We have a gun." Kind of how government works. And if you agree to their terms, they say, "Hey, you pay us taxes, you inoculate your children, you send them to our schools, you go to prison if we tell you to, you go to war if we tell you to." If you agree to all those terms and you sign the contract, then that's one thing. You're welcome to contract with people in that way. But if you look at the terms of their agreement, you say, "You know what? I'm not really satisfied with this agreement, and so I can't in good conscience sign on to that." You have the right to not sign on to it as well, and also to remove your signature from any contracts that were signed under false pretenses or without disclosing all of the terms of the contract. This is part of contract law. Contract is null and void if all of the terms are not disclosed at the time of signing. These sort of things. So that's the basis of how it works from a government perspective. From a spiritual perspective, we're all free. We have the right to be free, and no one can take that away from us without our consent. These sort of things. So this is the sort of thing that takes a little while to sink in, and I'm gonna continue to walk along this path. And that's one reason why I wish to be consistent in making myself available here every week to kind of talk about these things, talk about some of the nuance points. So one of the things I'm thinking about is banking. When I return to Colorado, how will I arrange my affairs so that I can be private? There is a difference between legal money and lawful money. Legal money is owned kind of on the corporate side of things under the corporate legal name, whereas lawful money is under your sovereign lawful name that your mother gave you. And I believe that it's even as simple as just calling your bank and saying, I would like all funds, I would like it on record that all funds that I deposit in the bank are declared as lawful money. And what this does is it protects you from ever having the government be able to claim your assets from the bank. I was watching a video earlier today that was saying that basically they've put it into the legal language of the government that if the government ever requires, for whatever reason, they can seize money from the banks and use it for their own purposes, out of personal accounts, these sort of things. So having your money when you deposit declared as lawful prevents them from doing that, because you're showing it as your personal property rather than public funds. So I'm going to go deeper into this. This is a path I have to walk on my own. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to turn out in the moment. And I have to figure that out as I go. So that's part of stepping out. Inside the system, outside the system. Like you can make a spiritual declaration of freedom, just between yourself and the universe, just to yourself of what you wish to do and how you wish to, and that's a good start. And as far as the universe goes, that will get you on the path. You just make the commitment to yourself that it is important to be free and it is important to support only just things, and then you can start walking the path one step at a time as far as tying out the loose ends and stuff. There's a packet of information I got from there's a judge, I believe she's in Alaska. Her name is Anna Reitz, Reitz. Pretty, this thing where people go so far to the right, they come back out on the far left, and anarchist and communist are sometimes similar, or whatever, reactionary, radical, these sort of things. So kind of out there on that spectrum, but it gives some good paperwork for how to appropriately send letters to the Secretary of State, to the Department of Motor Vehicles, to the Social Security Administration, to the IRS, saying that you're retiring from the presumption of public employment, that you're not a U.S. government corporation employee, and that any presumption that you ever have been is false. And by putting that on the record that you've rebutted that statement, that's good enough, and that stands that you've taken action. There is a guideline, a precedent in law that you can't change your status unless you actually take action. So just knowing about this stuff is very nice, but until you do something, you're not protected by the rights, the natural rights that I'm speaking about. You have the natural rights, but until you do something to claim them, you don't get the protection of them. And for most people, this means basically the identification. As long as you're carrying an ID card with you, a driver's license or whatever, and you have it on your person at all times, then you've consented to the system and you have to play by their rules. So if they wish to haul you off to jail and lethal injection for not wearing the color orange on a Thursday, you have to play by those rules, even if it's written in some obscure part of some law book that you never even knew existed. As long as you're carrying the slave card, you have to do what they say. So, and this is why it's important, because there's a lot of obscure laws and stuff that nobody knows about. And there's a lot of injustices that go along. And I will say again, I keep saying this, and I will continue to say it. As soon as a form of government appears that can provide peace and justice for people and nature, I will participate and I'll be stoked. Um, but as long as we're on this petrodollar oil oligarchy thing of manipulation and damage of people that don't really deserve that, innocent people, um, then I'm gonna sit on the sidelines and I'm gonna stoke the fires and these sort of things. So, but I don't know. It's all love. It's not a conflict. It's just trying to understand how to be free and how to respect each other and honor each other. These sort of things. But yeah, getting our hands on land. Part of this as well is the thing about land and buying a house. This is a very, very interesting thing. Many people kind of at this stage in life of where I am and our friends, the you know start a family and get a house, start a family and buy a house. Wonderful, like it's the American dream, like to own your own bit of something and to have a family. This is not the American dream, it's the human dream, to have a family that you can be proud of and that you can give all of your best love to. Wonderful. And what a terrible thing that people are working so hard and giving so much of their life energy into to buy a house where basically you're signing onto a mortgage where you're expected to work for 30 years, whatever, to pay off a mortgage. You end up paying basically twice what you agreed to after interest, these sort of things. And in the end, you get the title to the house, which you don't actually own and you never can own. The title to the house is issued by the government. They are the owner of it. You get to hold it. You are a surety for the house, but they're actually the owners of it. However, the remedy to this is there's something called a land patent. And you can perfect your claim to the land, in which case they don't have the right to ever even step foot on the land. So even if they own the title to the house, they can't come on to your property to address you in any sort of way. You remove the mailbox, because mailbox creates federal jurisdiction for the U.S. Post Office, and if you're in federal jurisdiction, again, you have to play ball. You have to do what they say. Remove the mailbox, stop accepting mail, perfect the land patent, and it's yours. You own it in perpetuity, forever, and they can never take it from you. Whereas if you just get a loan from the bank for a mortgage, to have a loan, you're not protected. You will have access rights to the house, to use it and to live in it, but you do not own it. And if you ever miss a mortgage payment, or if you ever don't mow your lawn, homeowners association, whatever, or if you don't do what they want you to do, they have the legal right to come and take it from you because it's theirs. So it's funny to me that people have this idea of oh, I'm going to buy a house, and then they go to the bank and ask for permission, and they sign a paperwork basically giving away 30 years of productive labor, and then they say, oh, we bought a house. No, you signed a piece of paper that says you will accept debt. Very interesting, though. Banks are required to accept promissory notes as a method of exchange, legal tender, monetary instrument sort of thing, which is basically what a Federal Reserve note is, what a dollar is. It's a debt instrument. It's an IOU. From the Federal Reserve to the international lenders to which basically all the money is owed, and it has as much legal validity as an IOU that you write yourself, which is known as a promissory note. I promise that I will compensate you with payment. So legally, if you craft a promissory note to the bank in the proper fashion and they're required to accept it. And there's some very interesting YouTube videos of people who have paid off their home mortgage with a promissory note. Basically, you go into them, you write an IOU, you put your seal on it, you tell them these things, and they have to accept it. Very interesting. This is not a path I've walked on my own, but the people who have walked it, they seem very, very pleased with what they've done. All sorts of debts, credit card debts, these sort of things, you can make them go away very simply. There's a Treasury Direct account that's set up in your legal name, and you can gain access to it and basically make these debts go away with the signature. Very nice, very cool. Um, Something I would like to learn about. I'm out here traveling. I don't have the chance to like do these things in the moment. So these are things that I wish to investigate more when I come home. How to make this actually happen. I did just last week. I looked up the owner of the birth certificate of my birth certificate. In order to get this U.S. Embassy, in order to get this appointment for a new passport, I have actually obtained a copy of my original certified birth certificate from the state of Colorado. And there's a registration number on it. There's a barcode on it. Very fascinating. Why is there a barcode on your birth certificate? It's because it's a monetary instrument. It's printed on bonded paper. It has monetary value. There's a website that I went to where you can actually type in the registration number on your birth certificate, and you can actually see that that it is being owned and traded by foreign companies. Like other people are speculating on your birth certificate, basically speculating against the value, the expected value of what you are expected to pay into the pot from a lifetime of labor, and they're speculating upon that in order to profit themselves. These sort of things. This is fucked up. It's kind of the scam. So this is fun. I'm going kind of deep into this. I don't know. I was going to go in a different direction, but I started going on this direction. I think this is the most important thing for us to like figure out how to get free, is to understand how we relate to the system and what our responsibilities and obligations are towards it. So when I talk about solutions, I guess I am inevitably drawn in this direction. But to the point of getting land and starting small communities, learning how to live sustainably, yes, this is what we should do, you know. No, I mean, as far as I know, everything that I've said is this is my understanding. I'm giving this information to the best of my ability. And the thing that has kept me from wishing to like come together with a group of people and maybe purchasing land and making it happen, which I think is a wonderful idea. I would like to do it with my biological or with my nuclear family, to come together on a piece of land that we can all share and grow older together on. I think that's wonderful, and we can all start doing this. But putting together with a small group of your good friends, buy a piece of land, something you can create a small community on. The thing that's kept me from going further down this is because I think the moment that you own a piece of land, then you got to get permits in order to build a house on it, in land owners insurance, all this stuff. You got to go through all these hoops, and it seems like a big pain in the ass. I would like a piece of land where I can build a small yurt on or something like this. Have a small, solar panels, small music studio, this sort of thing, workshop, something like this, garden, etc., etc. And I would like that. And I don't wish to ask anyone for permission to do that. Like, honestly, if I'm going to build a small, 50 square meters structure, and take liability for myself if I fuck it up, or if I, how is it anyone else's business to give me permission to do that on land that I ostensibly own? So that's kind of the thing. But I mean, what I'm trying to share is there is a process for you to perfect your status on your claim to the land, and that you actually can own the land outright as a human, and it's yours. And in this way, no one will have the ability to come and kind of tell you what to do with it. So I think, I mean, I'm sharing this to the best of my ability. I hope I'm not kidding you. I hope you're upset at what has happened and with the situation that people find themselves with. I hope you're not upset with something that I've said. So yeah, that's what I'm sharing with. And the vision that I have is people coming out of the cities, small communities, learning to connect with nature, and learning how to grow their own food and become self-sustainable, and then remodel the cities, urban agriculture, greenscaping, these sort of things. renewable resources, free electric energy, off grids, solar power, etc., geothermal, wind power, whatever makes the most sense. I'm a big fan of 0 point Tesla energy, where it can be transmitted wirelessly and basically infinite energy without the grid. This is something that many people have died over. It's my understanding. I mean, maybe like Tesla's work was kind of sabotaged towards the end of his career, and he died. Basically, he lost his reputation. But I think people now in 2019 know that he was a brilliant man and had some very powerful insights. He knew what he was doing. So that technology exists. I went to the Tesla Museum in Serbia, and it was very cool. They, you hold like the fluorescent light bulb in your hand, and they turn on the machine, and the light bulb lights up. No wires, no anything like that. So very cool to see wireless electricity like that. I've wanted this. Like every time I'm making music in the studio and I have my headphones on, and then I stand up and it yanks them off my head. I'm like, why can we not just have wireless electricity? I have to deal with these cables cluttering everything up and spaghetti every time you're trying to plug something in. You know? Yeah, yeah, it should piss you off. Good. I'm glad you're not upset about something that I said. Yeah, it does. It's fucking bullshit. It's a scam. Like they're like literally they treat people as if they're commodities and as if we belong to them, as if we're slaves. This is what I'm so upset about. And we all should be upset about this. And I just wish to share that, and that we as human beings have a right to be free. And we should all come together and understand this. Like, nah, hell nah, we ain't playing that game. And the mortgage fraud, the stuff that was behind the recession in 2008, and the speculation on war. That basically the same families have been financing both sides of every armed conflict, basically as far back as you can go. Both world wars were financed on both sides. The Axis and the Allied side, the German and the Americans, were being financed by the same groups of people. Both sides of the wars. I think this is something that's worth getting upset about, right? End of the next wars and the next wars, and it will go on in perpetuity as long as it is allowed for. And my great and sincere hope is that the next time they start rattling sabers and they want to create the next war, that everybody looks at them and everybody looks at each other and we say, you know what? No, nah. How about no? How about we don't do that this time? Because every other time we went to war, all of the people like us, all of the people that are reasonable people and trying to take care of their families and caring about things are the ones that end up dying. And all of the people that don't do fucking shit and they sit in their fucking gated communities and sip cognac are the ones that get even more rich and wealthy and these sort of things. And it's, and there's a spiritual level too. It's just fucking dark. It's dark that that a group of people would want to do this and manipulate all the goodness and humanity in this way. Something we have to accept. We have to accept the light with the dark, the yang with the yin, these sort of things. I think we would be making a mistake if we fell into the paradigm of engendering hate for these things. But that doesn't mean we have to accept it. We have to be stern, and we have to have strength of purpose and clarity of vision without falling into hate and vengeance and these sort of things. I believe there's a spiritual justification for self-defense. And from like a martial arts standpoint, you have the right to defend yourself with lethal force if necessary, exactly to the point that the threat is neutralized. And at that point, you do not anymore have the right to use force. So defend yourself, end the situation quickly and with the least amount of damage, and then stop, and then move on. So, and that's difficult. A lot of us have been raised with this kind of like neoliberal pacifist mindset of like, it's never okay to use force and these sort of things. And, like in an aggressive way of starting shit, no, it's not really cool. But in a way of protecting yourself and your family, like, And only we this self-defense is one of the most difficult things to enforce in law. Really, really difficult. Such a gray area. I'm thinking about the Trayvon Martin, the George Zimmerman thing. I don't know. He felt threatened. I guess he must have been carrying a very threatening-looking bag of Skittles. That child, you know, for that to have happened. But I don't know. I mean, who knows? Like, like you in a tough neighborhood, and motherfucker rolling around in his hoodie after dark. He's looking threatening. Six people got shot in that neighborhood in the last year. Shit happens. Like, self-defense becomes much more tenuous when you walk around in gang neighborhood or whatever. And we can have compassion for police officers that have to work in very dangerous and violent neighborhoods. These sort of things. You know, theoretically, it's a very courageous thing to be doing. I'm not really in favor of this idea of government applying authority onto people. But this is the reason why people are afraid of anarchy. They're afraid that some asshole who is the most violent and brutal would become the leader, and it would fall into despotism. And so, yes, that is kind of the responsibility of anarchy: compassionate anarchy, love each other, help each other, share with each other. But it's also have courage to not put up with people's bullshit. If someone's trying to be a dominator or take over through threat of force, we have to collectively stand up for and defend against those sort of things. So I don't know. These are my thoughts in the moment. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, yeah, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here and participating. Super happy to be able to share. And I offer these resources, and I will continue to offer resources. Maybe I'll put some links and stuff like that. But I encourage everyone to do their research on their own. I encourage people to offer their perspective. If anything I'm saying is off base, or you have reason to believe that it's different than what I say, then that's fair as well. I'm not really interested in arguing about things, but I'm absolutely interested in hearing, seeing evidence and hearing from other people. Hey Vera, very nice to see you, and it's good to connect with you again. I was so close to coming to Czech Republic again this year. I really wanted to go through there and get a chance to stop by. I miss it there. I had such a wonderful time there, and I hope to have wonderful times there again in the future. So you guys have been in my thoughts at various times of my travel. Appreciate it. Yeah. So we're coming up on an hour. I think I've covered some nice things today. I guess my intention was to kind of talk about the yellow vest movement, what's going on in France, how people have been kind of standing up. They're doing a petroleum tax on the people that's basically affecting the lower middle classes in a disproportionate way. And so in France, they've been coming out in public. I think 82,000 people last week in 6 different cities across France. Shout out, holla, have been protesting. I heard that they've been doing yellow vest protests in dozens of other countries around the world. It kind of reminds me of the Occupy movement of like, yeah, it's something to be inspired about. But let's hope it maintains momentum. It doesn't flame out. Ultimately, the things that needs to change is people need to change their relationship to work and to money and these sort of things, and to understand these relationships so that we can stand up for our rights and these sort of things. But it is inspiring. I saw the most inspiring thing I saw was the protesters were standing in front of the police, and they were and they were they were peaceful, and the energy was there. And the police looked at each other, and they saw that they weren't under threat, and they took their helmets off, and they kind of looked at each other, and you could see their faces, and you could see that they were connecting with the people, and they understood that they were defending a system that should probably not be defended. And so this is inspiring for me. I hope for these sort of sentiments to go around the globe, that this manipulation of the economy to enrich the people who are already rich will not be tolerated and will not be accepted. And by bringing our consumption choices into control and making reasonable choices, I believe we can have an economic system. We can trade the goods and have things go in the way, uh, in a way that's functional. But just this rampant consumerism, glorification of the ego, ballin', pimping thing, like, we just have to stop respecting it and stop, feeding into it so much. Music video culture, just, it's all fun and games, but it's not a way. It's not a way to live your life or something to base your life after. You know, and it's more fun when everybody's involved. And also, no matter what kind of front you put on, and no matter what kind of clothes you wear, what kind of status symbols you have around you, if you can't look someone in the eyes, and if you don't have heart inside your chest, then we shouldn't be giving respect to these types of people. So who you are, not what you look like, should be the motto for all of us. And I would like to see who people are. It's very interesting when I've been having conversations with people, how seldom people are courageous enough to look you in the eyes when you're speaking to them. And when I do look people in the eyes, and they can't hide. It's so funny. I can see right through people nowadays. Um, I'm like, I know someone for 5 minutes, and I look him in the eyes and I say, "You got a problem with your father, don't you?" And then you see him just like trying to hide it. They can't hide it. Um, and that's cool. And for me, it's nice because I don't care. I enjoy being vulnerable, so I like to allow people to see me. These sort of things. Um, cool. We've had a lot of passersby tonight. I'm so happy to see some of these names come up on the board. I see Elena has joined us today. Very pleased to have you. Uh, very sweet. I wish to see you again at some point. Of course, I wish to see all of my friends again. I wish joy and abundance for everyone, even if you're stopping by, passing through, leaving comments. Very pleased to participate with everyone. I love all of everyone that I've ever met, and I'm very pleased to continue along this path and provide inspiration. I think the best thing that happened to me today, I had a nice conversation with my dad, and we talked about many of these things, and it's very nice. He's kind of opened himself to accept some of the things that I've been talking about. When I was younger, I had these opinions, and I was still fleshing them out and trying to figure it out. And a lot of times he would say things like, "Oh, well, you just think that way because you're a teenager." And I always was like, dude, like, no, that is just like, you just completely marginalized my opinion by saying that, and that's so unfair. And it's nice now that I am no longer chronologically a teenager. um, and I still have these same opinions. It's nice to say, nope, not because I was a teenager, because this is who I am. And now to be able to find some common ground. And the thing that was the nice thing that I really enjoyed from that conversation is he told me that when he has these conversations with me, it helps him to grow, and that he's proud of me, and also that it's inspiring. And that was a real treat to hear that I am inspiring to my father today. And I hope that we all can be a source of pride and a source of joy for the people that care about us, and be inspirations for each other as we walk on this path. And no matter what happens, it will not stop me from having love for everyone and for all of us individually and collectively. And it will not stop us from dancing the dance of infinity in our dreams and in our minds and in our hearts. So whatever happens, I accept, because I love, and the universe is beautiful and brilliant, more so than we'll ever know. And we are protected and supported by forces that we can't understand. And that's wonderful. I sincerely believe that. I've seen it on various occasions, and it shows up at the time when you just need it just the most. And I wish for everyone to be inspired. I wish for everyone to find peace in their heart, and to walk their path with honor and dignity, and joy in these sort of things. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for participating. I will see you next week. I'm going to be consistent with this. You know where to find me. You're welcome to be here and to participate. I'm very pleased the space belongs to you as much as it belongs to me, as much as it belongs to anyone. Hooray. Okay, signing off. Till next week. This is Nico. Love and light. Peace.